Everybody down to the other end.
12 people running.
Turnover. All right, let's do this thing. Here we go. Welcome back to Two Homers and a Realist. We are enjoying the night air with some wonderful cigars. This is the post-game pod for the SMU game, a victory for the Sooners, 28-11. But not all was pretty. They covered the spread, but it was looking in doubt. In fact, the entire ball game was looking in doubt. We've got some guests here, along with a nice audience as we record. I'm Steve.
Lucas.
Jay.
Christian.
And Connor.
All right, so we've got a full crowd to break down everything that happened in tonight's game. Like I say, the Sooners won, but it wasn't as pretty as we wanted it to be. But one thing that is pretty is the cigars that we're enjoying, and we got them, of course, from our sponsor, the post-game sponsor, Tobacco Exchange. As a reminder, 3 great locations in the metro area, the best selection of anywhere you're going to find, as well as some of the most competitive prices. I think they beat everyone's prices on every cigar. And Lucas will detail the cigars that we're enjoying tonight in just a minute, but I want to tell you about a special they're running. General Cigars is doing a buy 4, get 1 free this month in the month of September. And that would include brands like CAO, Punch, Cohiba, Sancho Panza, and Macanudo. So great opportunity there. Buy 4, get 1 free all month of September at all the tobacco exchanges. Lucas, what are we smoking tonight?
Tonight we're having a CAO, Pelon, Añejo. And it's pretty bold smoke. It's got some spice to it.
It's a little rich.
Yeah. It's a great post-game, mad at how OU game went cigar.
It's pairing well with the bourbon for sure.
And it's still not bourbon, it's still rye, but okay.
Oh, we're drinking.
That's what I said.
Oh, I didn't hear that. I'm sorry, man.
That's all right.
Maybe my taste buds are añejoed out or something.
Well, either way, it pairs well with a victory, and it pairs well with a brown beverage. So we got a lot to cover, and I hope this isn't as negative as my notes are. My notes are pretty negative. I've got a lot of negative things to say. I know we're going to get to a realist rant at some point. Maybe we'll see if organically that develops through the course of just discussing this. But I want to start it out with just talk about your views on the general offense and what we saw. And tonight we saw really successful running for the most part. We saw a very poor passing effort, I would say, on whole, not just statistically, but when we needed passes, I didn't feel like we could go vertical and stretch the field. And teeing it up, I think there's a big question of, is it Dylan Gabriel? Is it Levy? Is it both? Where's the problem? But let me see what you guys have, your views on it.
I thought part of the problem was offensive line. Last week, obviously against a lesser opponent, we had better protection and we could throw the deep ball, and Andrew Anthony was able to get behind the DBs. This week, he didn't have anywhere near as much time to throw. It seemed like he was back to not being able to see over the middle again because of pressure coming up the middle. He doesn't have the escapability that we're used to with the Baker, Kyler, or Hurts. Rattler never had it, and obviously Caleb Williams was crazy escapable, but he doesn't have that aspect to his game, so he has to really stay in the pocket unless it's a designed rollout, which he does decent on those. But when he's got pressure up the middle and a little bit around the sides, he can't see the field. And I don't know that it's a height, or I don't know if it's just the line blocking schemes. But did we even try a deep ball tonight?
No, I don't. Not what I would consider a true
over
deep
30
ball.
yards. I don't remember a deep ball.
There was nothing over the top.
Yeah, and that was one of my questions going into the game was Anthony going to have the speed to get behind these guys like he did last week? And we never even got a chance at it. So that was a major concern, and obviously Levy is terrible in my opinion. He didn't even try. He wasn't creative at all, and even when the game's in doubt and it's 14-3 in the early fourth quarter, and we just ran the same plays over and over that weren't working, and we just followed suit.
I have a lot of notes along those lines, but I'm going to let somebody else chime in. But first, just to mention, I also thought the O-line was pretty poor, and I wrote that down pretty early. Bird was having a tough time, among others. And when you're not able to, the run game was pretty good. They were able to get some runs and yardage in chunks the way we wanted to see. One of my things to watch for in the midweek was in the trenches, especially on the O-line, D-line, but O-line trying to protect and get us yardage when we wanted it, as we wanted it, and we weren't able to dictate the game right there. What do you guys think about offense in general?
Yeah, I mean, I said it before we started. It felt so similar to what we saw numerous times last year, and it was almost like, even from the get-go, it just felt tense. Like, it felt like a very tense, forced operation on the offensive side of the ball. To Lucas's point, the creativity, there was nothing there. There was no sort of excitement. Everything felt difficult. Like getting down the field for us felt very, very hard. Where we come back and, again, it's maybe a poor comparison, but even a team like Texas, they're getting open and they're getting big plays down the field. The run game's opening up for them. Again, we had, I think, Tawi Walker had 117 yards on 21 carries. So statistically great, but
that's great.
I mean
4 or 5 yards a carry.
A 100-yard game as a running back, I think you can probably say it's not bad with the offensive line not doing well, I don't think. But overall, really, really disappointed in Dylan Gabriel. He was one of the players I wanted to see have a good game. Like we said, nothing over the top, no deep balls thrown. Every pass that was over the middle felt like it was behind his receiver or was just not in the right spot. Even the touchdown off to the flat to Marcus Major was a poor throw. It was a really, really good play by Marcus Major to come up with that ball, and an even better play to get the touchdown after the catch. So at this point, I just think Dylan Gabriel's a serviceable quarterback. Like, I don't think he is the caliber that we're used to. And I don't think it's going to happen, but you have to hope that if you have someone like Jackson Arnold, where we hear he's a guy who can throw people open and he's throwing people open in practice, that is something that Dylan Gabriel doesn't do, and I think you have to do it at this level to be competitive. And if you don't, you've got to hit the short routes that Gabriel makes look very difficult. So disappointed in the play calling by Levy, disappointed in the quarterback play all around. Offensive line has to do better. I want to see the run game open up, and we haven't seen that yet.
Yeah, I agree completely with Connor. I do think to Levy's slight defense, I'm not going to completely defend him. I think in the first half of the game, we did see some deep routes by wide receivers, and there were a couple times we saw guys that we thought were open, and Gabriel would just not release the ball. There were a couple times, I know there was one big one where Andrews it looked like the play was set up for him.
Anthony, Andrew Anthony.
Yeah, Anthony. And he was streaking down the sideline, and just the ball was not released to him. There was one with Stogner that was definitely drawn up for him as play action. Stogner's wide open. He does not throw it there. He checks it down. It seems like we're running a high school level offense where there is one drawn up receiver. If it's not there, if you don't feel comfortable, check it down immediately. So I mean, I will give Levy some credit there. I think he was trying to draw up plays, and Gabriel would not hit the open wide receiver or just didn't trust his arm to get it there, which I'd rather him, I guess, check it down instead of throwing it into bad spots, but it's just going to limit our offense going forward. And when we play tougher opponents, it's not going to help us going forward. So I personally think the limiting factor in the offense right now is not so much as the play calling as much as the quarterback play. I think the wide receivers have the ability to get open. I think the running backs obviously are capable of breaking tackles and making plays. But that being said, I don't think the play calling is good enough to what we've grown accustomed to.
He just looks so scared to throw the ball.
Yeah.
He looks so, like, I don't know if someone's saying protect the ball to a point where he's like, I don't want to throw something that has even the slightest risk of either being incomplete or being picked off. But he's not throwing the ball until he is 100% certain his guy's open. And at that point, a lot of the time, it's too late.
Right.
And we had the same complaint last week in a very successful effort otherwise.
Yep.
Right.
I have thoughts along that line, but that is four thoughts of people that were at the game, that were witnessing it in person. Jay was remote. Jay was watching it with the benefit of everything you get out of TV. Any different angles giving us a different perspective, Jay?
No, not really. And I'll try and not be redundant, so I'll maybe hit some different topics than what you guys mentioned. I would say the best term for the offense is pedestrian. I don't know if that's necessarily by design or if they just felt like defensively we're playing good enough. Eventually, we're going to wear them out. Just keep pounding the rock. They don't have the depth that other teams normally have, or bigger teams in bigger leagues. I don't know if that was the philosophy. Like you guys said, Dylan is... I wonder if he's afraid of losing his job. And the quickest way to lose your job is to force balls into situations.
Well, he wasn't last year, and he looked similar this year.
That's
But
true.
maybe even worse.
But yeah, I mean, last year...
He definitely wasn't losing his job last year.
No, but he's all we got, and you're trying not to lose games. But now you've got a
He didn't do a very
legitimate
good job of
person
that.
behind you
pushing
that
you.
can take your spot.
Yeah.
That's a good point. That's a real
Um,
good point.
But still, you have to just let it go. You can't have that weigh on you.
Yep.
You've got to run the offense.
Absolutely.
He's not the first guy to have a big-time quarterback come in behind him and possibly try to take a job.
Oh, yeah. It's not an excuse. It is potentially an explanation for
Right.
what we're seeing.
Now, the way that the defense is playing so far through 2 games, it's probably good he's not forcing the ball because we are in a position to kind of... This is a game we lose last year, I think. I think we lose this game.
Oh, I agree.
Defensively, we wouldn't have held up.
No.
And offensively, you can't just kind of flip that switch and all of a sudden start becoming more productive. I think it's like a whole game plan throughout the week, and you have to execute it when game time comes. But yeah, I don't know. Pedestrian. That's all I can say. I'm not smart enough to know if it's Levy or Dylan or both.
Well, I'm not, but I'm going to speculate. So I definitely support everything everybody's saying. My view is the buck stops with Levy. Ultimately, he has to be responsible for what's going on, but I do think it's more Dylan than anything else. And part of that is then ultimately a decision on Levy's part of either figure out a way to coach the guy to do better or replace him. And I'm very surprised to be saying this. I am getting really close to the camp of we want Arnold. I want to see what he can do. I want to see him potentially take the reins. But my thinking is very similar to what you're saying, Jay. Dylan and Connor, for sure, he is playing scared. He is not. He is looking off open receivers to look to a dump off route. And he's looking to dump off routes in positions where we shouldn't even be thinking about actually throwing that ball. When we're, for one, a really bad play decision with 13 seconds left in the half, we get the ball back. We're in pretty good shape, having held them on 4th down, to go down and get some points on the board. And what do? He checks it down to a route that runs laterally for a slight loss, and basically ran
to Barnes.
To Barnes.
What is
check down to a
why
running
is
back.
Barnes in there on a swing pass?
It made no sense.
Yeah, that made no sense.
And to make the throw.
He's not the wiggle guy.
Well,
he's a
I
power
think
back.
it was a design play actually, and it would work if everyone went down the field and he can run up the sidelines and then jump out. And there's 7 seconds left on the clock. But as it turns out, we just go out and take a knee on the next play. It completely spoiled the opportunity. But we saw it time and again where he was looking off of wide open receivers. One of them, Stoops, was running free. One time, Anthony was running free, and he checks it off to someone else. On that one we're talking about earlier off pod to Freeman, he actually, that's the one I think that Anthony's running free, and he waits and rolls out and tries to drill it at Freeman, and it's thrown behind him and up to his back shoulder. He has to slow down, and he drops the ball. He should have caught it, but it wasn't a very good throw. He had numerous ones that were thrown into the knees of Stoops one time where he did catch it on that drive near the end of the game where we're really needing to get some points. And he has a ball batted by a linebacker, thankfully, because it was thrown so far behind the receiver that it was likely going to be intercepted by the safety.
He just looks so antsy.
He looks like he's very unsure.
He looked confident last week. I'm not going to say every throw we had last week was great, and we still had some of the same issues, but he looked, given a lesser opponent, but he looked comfortable. And our line didn't give him as much time. You're playing a better opponent, but he did not look poised.
But it's going to get tougher from here on out.
Right,
And if this is a sign of how he handles adversity, that's pretty scary.
Well, I think SMU is probably a middle-of-the-road Big 12 team. I think what we saw today is what we'll see the majority of the season.
Maybe better. I mean, they may be better than they may be our third toughest opponent.
So I mean, in those terms, it's what happened today is good.
You're laughing, Lucas. Name
But-
better ones in a second.
This is the same
But I
Tulane
think-
conversation we've had over and over.
But I think what's
We're
an
not talking about
interesting
Tulane.
thing to figure out is, I feel like I'll just speak for myself, I guess. I'm not saying this year is pointless or not useful, but at some point, real football starts about 11 months from now.
Yeah, but this is when you have to go take it. This is our last year in a down league.
But I'm wondering is a turnover or two, a missed read or two by Jackson Arnold, but all of the game experience
worth it.
worth it?
I think
And
it might be.
I'm leading towards that.
That's
it
where
is.
I am too. That's
Because
where I am
this
too.
is not a national championship team with Dylan Gabriel. We could
That's a
be a
good way
Big
to
12
put it.
championship team, but
But we could easily be a Big 12 championship team with Arnold as much, I think, as with Dylan Gabriel.
Oh, we could be a 9-3 team, which is what I predicted. What's funny is we're talking bad about Gabriel. He had 4 passing touchdowns today. All 4 of our scores were throwing touchdowns. His QBR was 71.7,
Yeah,
which
again,
isn't very
like
good.
on a
It's
stat
awful.
stat line, it looks great, but like we were all at the game.
Our longest pass
Well, he
completion
was.
of the day was
Yeah, sorry.
29 yards. I mean,
That's not good.
That's not acceptable.
That's not acceptable.
No.
And you've got to be able to stretch the field vertically to set up everything else we supposedly are trying to do in this offense.
yeah, I mean that's what the whole offense is predicated on.
That's
I
what
mean,
we have
in a
been
bad
told.
weather game, it's super windy or super cold.
That's different.
30 yards for your longest completion is one thing, but when it's the weather it is today, you could air it out. Like, I mean, what are we doing? Just like we were talking about, checking down all the time, and
Yeah.
not. There was one play where Anthony was on a post, and he had 2 steps on his guy, and it would probably been about a 40 or 50 yard throw, and instead of throwing him open like we talked about last week, he just didn't make the play. He looked over left and threw a check down.
Well, and I think the one play that really stands out to me where it contradicts the statistics that you were just rattling off, Lucas, is it's in the 4th quarter. We haven't seen Gabriel really try to go down the field at all. He fakes the check down and then throws it to Drake Stoops, tries to throw it to Drake Stoops in the back corner of the end zone, and it's completely blanketed. Like,
Yeah.
there's no sort of...
It was one-on-one, but
Yeah,
it was
there's
good
no sort of
coverage,
like,
right.
hey, this is going to be a competitive throw, and Drake Stoops is not the guy you want to throw that ball up to. Why are you not throwing that ball to a Jaden Gibson
throw it to
or
a
an
5'9"
Andrel Anthony or
guy.
an Anderson? It was just like, it was I'm faking the check down, and this is who I'm throwing it to. There's no other option.
And that honestly wasn't a bad throw, but he threw it in the very corner where Drake had to make a perfect catch on that
Yeah.
Right.
to be able to pull it down and get his foot down. That's probably,
And maybe what I'm trying to say,
that's
there
a
were
1 in
so
50
many
catch,
there were so
probably.
many more routes that were more open than
Yeah.
that did not get thrown to tonight, and that's one that he decides to throw to.
And back to the story, the narrative of he only throws the safe pass. That's the only safe deep route, because it's going to be if he throws it the right way. And I think he erred on the side of throwing it too deep,
Right.
where you're not, and that makes it that much more difficult of a throw, especially to a short receiver.
Right.
So that just calls into question, I think, his judgment in the course of play,
Yeah.
and the choices he's making as he plays.
we didn't see a single Petaway play today.
He didn't get on the field.
I don't think he got on the field. I didn't see Jaden Gibson out there today.
Didn't see
And
Gibson.
obviously
Didn't
those
see
guys
Anderson.
were the third guys last week, but they made plays.
They made big time
So
plays.
how did they not move, not necessarily up the depth chart, but in the rotation?
In the rotation.
To where, I mean, Petaway led the team with 9 catches last week,
Yeah.
and he doesn't step on the field today. If he did, and I just didn't see him run a route, but
Yeah.
he didn't get targeted.
Yeah, I don't
He didn't get
So
targeted.
how does that guy, unless maybe he was injured, but he seemed fine last week because he was playing through the whole game last week. And then another one, Blake Smith looks better than Stogner.
I agree.
Absolutely.
Stogner looks so
maybe
slow.
he's
He
not
looks
the
slow.
maybe he's not the blocker that Stogner is. Which who missed? Did Stogner miss that block? There was a huge block that was missed.
I think it was Stogner. If
in
we're
the
thinking
first
about
quarter.
the same one, it's off to the left side.
It was in
and-
the first quarter, and it was just a complete whiff.
Yeah.
And it went for like a 4-yard loss or something like that.
Which had a
Stogner
lot of
just
open
completely
field
missed his
in
guy.
front of him.
Yeah. And if you're not going to be the pass catching tight end, and you're going to be the blocking one, you can't miss wide open
Right.
blocks like that.
Absolutely.
Well, and maybe one of the last things here, Jay, you mentioned it before the pod. We only had 2 receivers who touched the ball before halftime. Is that
Yeah.
right? So, and again, that's so loudly speaks to how we played the game last year. It's like Lebby opened up this playbook of what we could be last week, and then
closed it back down.
Closed
Yeah.
it and said, no, like this, but that's not the offense that I'm going to run. Like, this is not what I'm going to do against competitive teams. It's
Yeah,
just,
it feels like,
it's just
It
baffling.
feels like last week, I mean, we were doing reverses and quick outs and going deep down the field against a team we didn't need to do that against.
Yeah, the Petaway, like, underneath
tonight-
wide receiver screens, we ran that
tonight,
5 times.
We were calling offensive plays like we had a 35-point lead.
Right.
Yep.
Well, that's what confuses me and scares me, frankly, is the defense this year. Which, I mean, I'm sipping the Kool-Aid a little bit on the defense. I think we look a lot more improved on the defensive end than we did last year. But last year, I can kind of see Gabriel being a little more conservative on the passing end. Not necessarily because he's worried about losing his spot, but if he gives the ball over to the other team in the bad position, they can go score because our defense is so bad. This year, we have a defense that can protect him a little bit, take some more risks. And I guess you could say that, honestly, to maybe using Arnold a little bit is, yeah, he's younger and may make more mistakes than Gabriel, but I'd rather him make those mistakes because he's going to have a defense that backs him
got a
up.
backbone behind it, yeah.
So, like, that's a little bit more reinforcement. We're playing so safe when we have one of the better defenses. I mean, we're 2 games in, but so far one of the better defenses we've seen in a little bit.
Oh, seen maybe in 5 years.
So I think, like, if you're going to take a risk with the offense or with a quarterback change or with whatever, you need to do it now while you can kind of build this defense up instead of, waiting till your offense is just stagnant as can be.
I think that's a really good point. I think that you are in a position to rely on your defense more, which should dictate that you take more chances. It should allow you to take more chances in the right positions. One of the chances they're taking that I do admire is the fact they're putting Arnold in the game in the belldozer type of situations that we all were thinking was a great opportunity. They're seeing it too. But as much as they're doing it, I'm a little disappointed in that they're doing it in absolute obvious positions of what he's going to do. When it's 4th and 2, you know he's running the ball. If you put him in at 3rd and 2, he has an opportunity to throw it, and maybe they're trying to save it or something. But I would rather open that up now and keep defenses honest and give him some experience in checking to that pass.
Which helps you pick it up.
It helps you pick
yeah,
it up.
and even if he throws an incompletion on 3rd and 2, you've still got the 4th and 2 run.
down, exactly.
Right.
So that was a little disappointing. I like the fact they're using him, but I think it's less than they need to. Another point before I want to transition to defense, on Arnold's 4th down try late in the 3rd quarter, where it looked like he got a really bad spot.
It looked like it was almost a full yard
may
short,
have
or a
been
half yard short.
got there for the yard to, line to make. We have a 3-minute TV timeout, and it doesn't get reviewed, and also no one challenged it. Maybe they looked at it and said, well, he's clearly short, so it's not worth the challenge. But as a fan that was in the stands, it was very confusing to me and frustrating to think that they wouldn't take a risk on challenging that, because that was a critical one. You pick that up, you're putting points on the board most likely.
So
it
was on the 18-yard line.
I just really wonder about that decision to not challenge that, but maybe they clearly saw that he didn't get it. I think that defense is actually our strength this year so far. I'm surprised to be saying that, but I really think it's our strength. I don't think it has to be, but I think right now it's our strong suit. I'm very impressed with how we're playing defense. The defensive line, I think, was getting good pressure, and they were running max protect most of the game. We, going into it at least, believed that we'd have a lot of success offensively and would have difficulty defensively. It was the opposite. We were in control of that game for the most part defensively, and SMU, I thought, called a bad game, especially in the last 6 minutes. If I'm an SMU fan, I'm pretty disappointed in the fact that they had no urgency.
Yeah, they were letting
and
the clock
didn't throw the ball down.
down.
They were running the clock better than we were. And that'll be our realist rant in a minute. But let's talk about the defense. What other things, good and bad, are you guys seeing? I know Kanik had not a great game in a lot of people's eyes. I would agree. What do you guys think about defense?
I think I really like, opposite of the offense, I like how many guys we saw out there making plays. Late in the game, you're seeing redshirt freshmen, Kip Lewis and Kobe McKenzie out there in relatively high stake plays, and they're making plays.
McKenzie had a great breakup.
Yeah, and Kip Lewis is just flying to the ball. It's so weird that our philosophy on defense, at least right now, and I don't know what it says about the offense that we should be concerned about or the coaching style that is reserved. But on defense, it looks like, hey, if you're going to be a guy who can go make plays, we're going to put you out there. Where again, completely opposite of what we've seen
Yeah, we're
offensively.
seeing a lot more rotation.
So didn't get off the field a couple times. Luckily, it wasn't. Most of the time, it wasn't because we were giving up big plays on third down. A lot of it was penalty related with pass interferences and stuff like that. So I'd like to clean that up. One of the pass interferences, the one on Peyton Bowen in the end zone, was iffy in my opinion. I've seen a lot. I've seen that play not called more times than I've seen it called, but I really like seeing the young guys out there, and on top of that, I like seeing the young guys make plays.
How many holding penalties did they have?
I believe one, right?
Yeah.
So
that looked like that was not being called and could have been. I like the D-line pressure.
Yeah, good to see Harrington get an interception as well there at the end.
And a smart decision to go down immediately.
Yeah, so
very unselfish.
I'm happy with the defense. Only giving up 11 points to that offense seems like a pretty good feat to me.
Yeah, I think so too. Kanik, to me, is he's playing the majority of the game. They're probably seeing more than I'm seeing, but I'm questioning if he should actually be in that position versus Kip. I don't know. At least maybe swapping time a little bit more.
He looks like he's still learning the
I think
spot.
Lewis got in quite a bit towards the end. He's faster.
Yeah.
And Kanik, there's plays where they've got him going to cover the running back on like a swing pass type route, and he's just not fast enough to get over there.
But he is. He is fast.
But he wasn't.
But
I watched it
on paper or
well, technically he's fast enough. He just
he's not as fast as Kip Lewis is on the field.
I bet he's fast.
He's just not.
But he's not on the field.
He's not on the field.
Yeah,
when they're wearing maybe when they're running in shorts and t-shirts, and he's just going in a straight line. But on the field, Kip Lewis is faster.
I think when Kanik can pin his ears back, he looks extremely. He blitzed a couple times when he was hauling ass. Sorry, can I say that on the pod?
Yeah, you can now.
Okay.
Now we're gonna put an explicit warning on
when
it.
he's hauling ass downfield, he looks very fast. Because there was one where they brought him off the edge on like
untouched,
on a third and long, and Connor was like, "Is that a safety who blitzed?" And I was like, "It's Kanik."
Yeah.
He's extremely fast. I think maybe just kind of the mental game is what's getting to him right now, and maybe that's why he's not flowing over to that running back and getting there fast.
I think he's questioning where he
has
should
moments.
be.
Agreed.
There's moments where
he definitely has moments.
I think
There's
he's
an
really
absolute
good in the
great
run
play,
game.
and then there's other plays where he's a step off.
Yeah,
But
I saw in one instance where it was, I'm gonna say in the third quarter they were going south, and the play, he's got running back coverage duty, and it's out on a swing option to the left side, and he is fading over there to cover it, but he notices the quarterback does motion and start rolling to his right, and he gives up his man to come over to where he does dump it off, and they make a great play. He's not involved in it, and stop him for minimal gain, if not a loss. But it really worried me because a quarterback, if he would have looked back, he left that running back completely open.
And he could throw it over the top of
it
him.
would have been, and it would have been a big gain because there was really only one other cornerback deep to try and make a play on that. So little things like that give me concern. But he does have good moments. So I'm in no way trying to be negative on him in a way that I don't think he should play. It was one of my things to watch for, so it's kind of why I'm talking about it. It has some concern for me. I'd like to see him better. I think he's got a lot of potential, and obviously that's the core of your defense there at the Mike linebacker spot.
I think SMU exploited us a little bit by throwing over linebackers and under the safeties, and then even the corners seemed like they were playing a little too far off and leaving those mid-range routes open.
Yeah.
And Gentry Williams went out after the second drive, and so Kenai Walker played the rest of the game, and he looked decent, but he didn't look as good as Gentry Williams. And I thought they may give Josiah Wagner a run maybe later in the game, but they stuck with Kenai Walker the whole time. And it seemed like they had quite a few 13, 17-yard completions, especially on a 2nd and 8. Or they would run the ball into the line, and we'd stop them, and it's 2nd and 8. And then maybe they run it again, and then it's 3rd and 6, and they're throwing 12 to 15-yard routes. And
surprised me again, and I thought that was very good on their part to exploit and get success there. Still surprised me they never then took it to the next step, which is to go deep against us. At least an attempt. I'm glad they didn't. I don't want to see them.
And McCullough didn't play today.
Yeah.
But
And that'll help. when
Harrington
he's
got
back.
injured for a couple plays, and we got to see Peyton Bowen, Pearson, and Bowman all in at the same time.
And Bowen had a good play.
Bowen is a star.
We had
Yeah.
4 quote-unquote safeties out there a couple times with Key as well.
Yeah.
Because he was in there over the top as well.
He actually
so.
looked pretty good today.
He had a pretty good.
He had
The
a
only
couple-
the
he had
only
a pass
negative
breakup.
play is
Zone.
the 2-point
The-
conversion was
Yeah, that was
that
pretty
was
weak.
ugly.
Yeah, he had a pass breakup, and he looked pretty good on the
didn't he
blitz a
create the
couple
fumble?
times.
He did create the
did.
fumble. He
Yeah.
punched. He punched the
And
fumble.
that was
yeah.
as much
punched the
of a
ball.
created
That was a busted
fumble
coverage.
as I've ever seen. It
I don't
was a
even know-
busted coverage.
That was
You
a
know-
busted coverage, and he punched it out. And
Even
thankfully,
on-
Woody Washington
Did
he
not
stepped,
touch the
he
ball.
touched the ball and then stepped out, and,
And-
as he was reaching back in,
Danny jumped on it.
Stutzman
Thankfully,
Stutzman
got it.
because if
jumped
he
on it.
touches that ball,
Thankfully, if he touches it, it's their ball.
Yep.
Yeah,
Yeah, and it really scared me that he might have touched it first.
because that was a crucial
And
point in the game.
I was
'cause
wanting them to snap that
They had
ball.
momentum.
It
so
was
that
still
they didn't
still
review
14-3 at that point.
Oh
wasn't
yeah,
it?
absolutely.
Yeah.
It was a very crucial moment. Yeah, because
that
they're
would
in
put them
scoring
on
position.
our 30 or so.
Yeah, it would have. So that was a great play by Key. That was good to see. No, I'm very positive on the defense. I think they're going to win us games that they lost us last year. The offense needs to get better so that they're actually contributing in a way that isn't a flip of last year. It's actually both elements of the game
We got to see
working
some
in
punts
sync.
today.
and good punts. Great punt coverage.
First punt was low, but the gunners got down there and smoked the dude as soon as he caught it.
Yep, and
And Bowen
and-
the-
blocked one, right?
Yep. We had a punt block by Bowen, who's a
Yep.
true. The dude was playing high school football last December, and he's on the field.
Yeah, he's
blocking
going to be a
punts now.
superstar, man.
That's
And
so
then
cool.
the
There's no other
second
way to
punt
put
was
it.
low as well, but he bobbled it, and I thought we might jump on that one, but he grabbed it. But then from there on, they were a lot better. He was got more height on him, was allowing our guys to get down there, and they were having a fair catch it.
Do you guys think, which I guess we weren't in too many spots, but I guess the one spot that we were in where we had Arnold in there at fourth and whatever, which I thought we should go for it, but and we did. But are you at all worried about Schmidt as a field goal kicker, us not putting him out there and letting him get us points, or?
I think all those positions were the right decision statistically and everything. It's the right
Yeah, I think so
decision to
too.
make. I don't think they're making them because they don't trust Schmidt. I think they're thinking it's the right, and it clearly was the right.
It's just
play
so
to make.
OU, like, it's one of those things where everyone else who lines up against us in fourth down, I'm like, oh, 4th and 2, they're
Not
getting
a
it.
problem.
For us, it's like, this is going to be the hardest fought 2 yards that we're ever going to have to get.
Game defining.
And it
moment.
was.
Yeah,
Like,
and
it's just
Walker had to
nothing is
fight for a
ever
couple
easy.
Of them, and yeah.
It drives me nuts.
And we remember the ones that aren't. We don't remember when we're
When we
very
convert.
successful.
Yeah, exactly.
We also remember the ones that get converted against us versus those that don't.
Well, there for a while, it was every single one got converted
and that was
against
because
us,
our
so.
defense was so awful
Yeah.
for so many years.
They were 2 of 4 on fourth down, and we were 2 of 3, but should have been 3.
Jay, how did the defense look on TV?
It looked good. It looked very, bend but don't break. We were having a blitz to bring pressure, but they were leaving a lot of blockers in. Almost every single pass play they had an extra tight end or an extra running back that stayed in.
Downs was in a lot today.
He
Downs
started.
played a lot.
The defensive line's interesting because, to take a Lincoln Riley quote, we're close. And the defensive line is literally a half a step away from having multiple sacks.
So it's fixable.
But we just can't get there.
It is a
or
fixable
some
thing.
holds.
I do think
Yeah, some holds that,
Yeah.
that we're not going to get.
Yeah, we're not
I
going to
do
get.
think it is slightly worrisome 2 games in at the lack of pressure.
I think the pressure was pretty good today. I wrote that down as a note. I thought that
We're getting pressure, but we're not getting home.
we're not getting home, but one of them we did, and it just was a great move by that quarterback and a misstep by, was it Canick on that
I
one?
think it's Bothroyd.
The one where on him and then he throws it
and he ends up
downfield.
making a great
Yeah.
play to pick up the first
Where that
down.
I called
Yeah.
that receiver
He-
coming back.
Caleb
He escaped
Williams
really
style.
well a couple times.
Yeah, I was disappointed with that. With the receiver that was on the sideline, the receiver, he comes back to get it. He jumps up to catch it.
Woody doesn't punch it.
And Woody should have knocked his legs out from under him, and he would have flipped upside down, and no chance he
He
holds
should
on
have
to that
paralyzed
ball.
him for sure.
Yeah, he should have paralyzed. Yeah,
Well, you might, in that situation, though, you might get a defenseless player. What you can do is pick him up and put him out of bounds.
Yeah.
And then there's
kind
nothing
of
you
catch
can
him in
do.
the air.
Which
and not let him
nobody
get a foot
ever
down.
does.
Yeah.
Yeah, amazingly, they
Or
never
just
do
the
that.
side.
Well, our
Sideways
luck,
push.
the officiating would have said his forward
Right.
progress was stopped or something crazy, and they would have given him
Even though he
the
caught the
actual
ball out
catch.
of
Yeah, he
bounds.
got a
exactly.
pinky toe down or something.
Yeah.
I know we've moved on to defense, but
Go back.
before we go back, or I don't want to
Continue.
miss it. Is anyone interested in the running back rotation?
Yes, I am. I'm a little.
I'm
confused by it.
disappointed
I'm a little
in what we saw
disappointed.
today.
As good as it was to see Marcus Major score that last touchdown on a reception, he
Great
did
catches,
not,
by the way. Both times.
Oh,
he caught
yeah,
was really
absolutely.
Oh,
good.
that was a bad throw.
and maybe that's why he's in there, because
Right.
maybe he catches the ball the best. But Walker was a much stronger runner. I think more highly of Barnes, on paper at least, and I mean that from the standpoint of what I've seen in other games. And I think Sawchuk has got a lot of potential, and we're not.
Are we
seeing
still
him
protecting
have a
him though?
chance.
Is that why he played like 2 snaps?
I know he very
We
well
saw
could
him
be
warming up a
rusty.
lot, and he would never get in the game. So I mean, I don't know if we're still protecting him or what,
And
but
he did play.
he did.
Yeah.
But he
Barely.
didn't. He didn't
It's
play.
just overall
like,
yeah.
offensively, we played a very good Florida State team in the bowl game, and
And
the
Barnes and
offense
Sawchuk ate
did
him up.
really well.
Yeah.
And Barnes and Sawchuk both ate up all kinds of yards on those guys, and I feel like they're the last two to even show up on the field.
It was where we just kept running Major in the first half for sure. When there's situations you think, oh, I mean, Major's ineffective. We need to get Walker out there, and they just kept running Major. And then towards the end of the game, it seemed like Walker ended up with more carries, but it didn't feel like that in the first half. And
He's the better runner of the two.
he's a better runner. Yeah,
He was breaking
he
tackles.
broke the tackle and he had a 30-yard run. That
And
was our
he-
longest play of the game.
And he is one step away from breaking something, and
He's not as
gone.
fast.
But that's the one. That one run. That
Well, he may
one
not
run.
be as fast, but he's going to break something, and he
'Cause he's great
to
at breaking
me,
tackles.
I think he's going the distance where I don't see that out of Major because he's just getting tackled.
But the one run that the big run that we had feels like one of the only runs that went to the outside.
Yeah.
Everything else was up
Yep, off
through the
tackle.
middle.
forced
Off,
inside.
yeah, and it's. I want to see like we have guys who, if you can get them into space, should be able to go and make plays.
We talked about that with Gray last year.
Yeah.
We thought he's the sketchy
And it took
side to side
several
back,
games to get him going.
and it was just a whole bunch of runs up the middle where he would
Yeah.
get foot tackled
Yep.
after 5 or 6 yards, and we're like, why are you not sweeping outside with that guy? That's what he does.
Mm-hmm.
And it seems like this year it's all inside runs again
Yeah.
with a line that's just okay.
Seemingly just okay as of right
And
now.
To
Bird,
me-
Bird got pulled for Everett pretty early on, I think.
Yeah. Was he? What was it? Did you see anything with Bird Jay on TV that
Oh, he completely
just losing, just not blocking
He
at all?
he got beat on that.
there was one play he was
he
just
was
beat real bad.
destroyed.
Really?
On a sack.
And it was a sack, yeah. And it was pretty critical. So
There was another play where, I don't remember the play, but we got like a 15-yard gain on it, and he was blocking, and then our guy kind of got gang tackled, and he came in late and hit a guy, and then that guy stood up, and then he got back in his face and kind of pushed him again. I'm just like, dude, just get away from the
yeah,
the
quit.
play ended 3 seconds ago. Get out of there.
Yeah, there's one thing about being the nasty offensive lineman that they want. There's another thing about being dumb. And
Yeah.
Tyler
Getting-
Guyton got busted for illegal lineman downfield
Which
on a
was
touchdown.
which was ridiculous.
It
he
was
was
a-
6 yards down the field.
Yeah, he turned around to
recognized
try to
it,
go
too.
back,
He recognized
but the
it.
ball was in
Back,
the air, and
yeah.
it was way
which
too late at
luckily
that
we ended
point.
up converting that.
Yeah, actually
but
it helped us because we burned another
We're
minute
more
and a half off the
time.
clock
Right.
before
Yeah.
we scored.
But it was potentially a critical mistake.
Yeah.
Which good catch and run on Farouk later in that drive to
Oh,
score.
absolutely.
That was
Oh, yeah.
that was
Yeah.
good to see.
I wonder if, and this would be a greedy thing on their part, which is very risky, but are they just trying to work on things they want to get better at, like running up the middle, getting opening up seams through the middle, which obviously
It
in
just
the
doesn't
history
seem
of-
like the game for that.
No, it doesn't. Beatonbow's historic lines have always been great at that, and I'm sure he wants to get to a point where we're doing that and having tremendous success, 6-yard, 7-yard gains, but work on that in practice.
Dude, yes,
I agree.
exactly.
Not in a game.
Yeah.
Not when it's obviously not working, or that's not the time. Of course, he's not calling the play call, so it can't all be him. It's got to be Levy at that point. So
To be fair to that point, I mean that's a bit of an optimistic view. Like maybe we're just patching holes. And the one thing I would say to, kind of add to that is when we needed to go score, when it became a one-score game, we drove down the field really well after
we did
that.
which.
It's
So that's
risky.
that's a
That's
little
so
that's a
risky,
little
though.
odd that we were
that
able to
bugs
open
me.
up the play calling.
That's to me like they're
Right.
playing safe
Right.
and they're trying to work on stuff where they they're taking a lot for granted
I
there.
mean, it's 14-3. It's
Yeah.
not.
And so
we don't have
that's
some
a perfect
commanding
transition
lead.
to what I wanted to talk about, which was emotionally, how did you guys feel? Here's how I felt. And I think, Jay, you had texted us to the same extent. We are letting them stick around. It's barely a 2-score game. This is the kind of game you lose when you're only up 14-3 in the third quarter. You're not really threatening to score very much in that third quarter. It's the kind of game where a team like this scores late. I mean, this is classic how we lost to Kansas State in the last few years.
It's just classic
Multiple
college
times.
football
When
in
it-
general.
Exactly.
You let a
You
team
can't do
hang
that.
around
Don't let 'em
that
hang
shouldn't be
around.
on the field with you, per se.
So
and
those
next
were-
thing you know, you're on ESPN over and over because there's some.
So
major
I was
upset.
getting the feeling that we were putting ourselves in a position to lose. I was still fairly confident, but then when they go down to make it a 1-score game, that's when, and we do go down and score immediately and responded, but that's when I really got concerned that this is going to be one where we go out and we're tight and we go 3 and out, and now we're in real trouble.
Yeah.
And
When
that very well can happen.
When it got to 14-11, I looked at Christian and I said, this feels so much like last year, and I could 100% see us losing this game
Yeah.
because it felt like it was
I
getting
felt
out
it
of
at
hand.
the same time,
Because
same emotion.
we weren't showing any sort of conviction and going down, and like I've said, everything felt like a struggle offensively at that point. Third quarter was just complete garbage on our part in terms of converting when we needed to. So when it got to that 14-11, very emotionally unstable.
And there we are in the fourth quarter. It's 14-11. We do go down and score. We came down with some authority, had a lot of success. And then we stop them. Another great defensive stop. We get the ball back. There's about 7.5 minutes left. We do obviously want to score. There's a lot of time left. But at that point of the game, you're probably wanting to salt it away and use clock.
Yeah, we turned them over on
You
downs.
want to do what?
Tell me,
what's that?
Lucas, what's your theory on that?
Let's go with the realist rant of the week.
Let's go.
Jeff Levy doesn't know how the clock works. The previous drive, where they scored to make it 14-11, we get the ball back, and he keeps pushing pace. At that moment, you got a 3-point lead. I want a good, solid drive down the field, which we went 11 plays in 3:08, and that's with no big plays. Conversely, SMU's play or drive before, where they scored to make it 11, was a 16-play, 7-minute drive. So they only ran 5 more plays than we did, but took 4 more minutes off the clock, which in turn helped us later. But why is that 11-play drive that we have not a 5 or 6 minute drive when you're trying to score but also run some clock because you're protecting a lead?
Absolutely. And people, I was glad to hear in our section many different people screaming about it.
Yeah.
The intelligent football fans that we sit around, they're recognizing the situation.
And
Even
they
when we
can
had
see it from up there.
Even when we had
Even from up there.
a 10-minute or a 10-point lead, we were still snapping it with 25 seconds.
Yeah, so
we
then
snapped one with 34 seconds
So we
to
go score to make it 21-11 on that long drive, long distance wise, 75 yards in 3 minutes. We make them go 4 and out, and we get the ball. What was it, 30-ish yard line or something like that?
35-ish, yeah, something like
with
that.
7:31 left on you said 7.5 minutes. So there's 7:31 on the clock. We scored in 51 seconds.
which is great to score.
51 seconds, there's a 40-second play clock. 37 of those could have gone by before you took that snap.
Was on
after the first
three
down.
On 3 plays, right?
On 3 plays,
Three
you only
plays.
use 51 seconds.
And we're not being greedy here.
No.
We're not saying
I'm trying
you
to
can
just-
have your cake and eat it too,
Right.
but what we're saying is be intelligent, because last year, in the same situation, over and over and over again, we didn't have success.
Yeah.
And it doesn't have to work out. You
That-
don't
that
get
should
the
have been
score.
a 3-play, 2.5 minute
so if
drive,
you don't
not
get,
51 seconds.
If you don't get the score, at least run clock.
Yeah.
But yeah, if you can score and run clock, that's the best of all combinations. If you can score, that's great. But think about the downside scenario of you don't score, you want to have run clock, and you
Yeah.
have to. You're in control.
Even if you're
of
settling for the
clock.
field goal on that, you want to take a couple minutes off the clock. But instead, on first down, the untimed clock, they run the ball, and then they run up to the line of scrimmage and snap it at 33.
Yeah.
33. So there's 30 seconds right there that should have been used
Right.
to slow the game down.
Exactly.
Well, I think
Then
what's
you run another play that ended up being the touchdown on the bad throw, which
Well,
you're happy to score on that play.
Yeah.
Well, that's
But-
on third down too. Like if Marcus Major doesn't come with that ball,
Yeah.
that's a complete waste because you're
Right.
stopping the clock.
Yep.
And you're having to take a risky field goal.
Yeah, you're looking at a 43-yarder or
So,
whatever it would be.
I don't know. It's
What I don't understand schematically in this whole thing with the hurry up is you want to use it to catch the other team off guard. But
But you played the whole game this way, so
but
they're
teams
expecting
are
it.
not off guard. The defense isn't looking to the sideline. They're not confused. They're not pointing and they're not moving people around. So if your play is your play on offense,
Then wait.
and the defense is set,
Just wait.
then what are you doing? What's the point?
They're not going to figure something out and stop you for having waited 30 seconds.
Yeah,
and then they're going to
defensive
signal in,
coordinator's
they're
not
going to
all
run.
of a sudden going, oh, they're throwing it to the running back and give you a signal. I mean, it
Exactly.
is what it is.
I totally agree.
And there was a couple points last week where we were clapping and trying to get them off sides.
Right.
Which we really didn't do that at all because we were lining up and running it so fast
Right.
that there was no opportunity, even on a 3rd and 6, when is a perfect time to try to draw them off sides because then you give yourself a 3rd and 1, that they were snapping it at 33 seconds.
I'm convinced it kills our run game too, wholeheartedly.
Because the offensive line,
Offensive line
the
is-
big
is
boys are
toast.
so tired.
They really are toast.
Blocking and then jumping up, running back to their spot, getting down,
Yep.
snapping the ball.
It's one thing to
There's
be doing
no
that in the
rest.
first quarter. It's a very different thing in the deep into the fourth quarter to be trying to do that with your guys.
In a 90-degree
It has
game.
to be appreciated.
It's hard
and
outside.
I told Christian, why don't they just put, if it's a Gabriel thing, and I'm wondering if it's a Gabriel thing, at least in the game. Eventually, you have to blame Levy. But is it a Gabriel deal that he just can't get it through his head that you want to run clock? Have Ethan Downs go in there and hold Dylan Gabriel and tell him, do not let him go until there's 10 seconds on the clock, and then he can set everything
It's
up
strictly
and go.
coaching. It's not Gabriel's
Yeah,
fault.
there's no way a player's that
no chance.
inept at being able
they
to
have-
listen
they
to what the
practice
coach
too
is
much.
telling you to do.
I would think so too.
They
I don't
practice too much
understand
for
it.
that to happen.
How are they not seeing this after it was clearly an issue all last year? Do they not listen to our podcast?
Yeah, they had the whole offseason. Andrew Rame figured out how to snap a ball correctly in the offseason.
Yeah.
Jeff Lebby can't learn how a play clock works.
well, and later in the year, against better teams, it will cost us.
yeah.
It's not even
I
a
mean, it
matter
did
of
at
it's
least
not
3
it's not
games
even a
last
matter of if it's going to cost us or
Yeah.
it will cost us.
Well, and you think these guys are tired in the fourth quarter of the second game. How tired are they going to be in the fourth quarter of the Texas game?
Exactly. That's
Because that was one of the
Deeper
beauties.
into the
Exactly.
season.
That was one of our hopes from the Florida State game.
Yeah.
Was we slowed it down,
Yeah.
did the plays that we're going to do. I think we were the only team last year to run for over 200 yards against
Yeah,
Florida
it worked
State.
against Florida State.
And then to the start of this year, it seems like we're back to
Stupidity.
what we went
That's
with
what we're back
last
to.
year.
It's really frustrating.
And the defense was gassed.
The defense is gassed, and that's what, and they're really gassed if you go 3 and out,
Yeah.
and you
Yes.
put them back out there to try and make a stop on a team that's got all the enthusiasm and confidence because you just gave them the ball back.
That's one of my most infuriating things watching football is a defense that continues to support the offense, make stops, and you continue to just go 3 and out and not run off clock and not give them any rest. You don't help out the defense at all. I mean, if that's your strong point right now, stick to it and hold the ball as long as you can and manage the clock before you put the defense back out there.
Well, look at Nebraska today. I mean, Nebraska plays a great first half with their
great
defense, and their offense can't do anything. And by the third and fourth quarter, they're completely gassed and they start getting just wrecked.
Yep.
So it has to change.
And
It
this
has
is-
to change.
This is the stat that does it for me. Each team had 22 first downs, but they had 5 minutes more possession than we did. That shows you how much faster we were going than them. And to me, that should be, if you have the same number of first downs,
Do it
and
how
about
many
the same
plays?
number of plays.
Yeah, about the same number of
Well,
plays.
I don't have the stat on how many plays you
I
ran.
mean, obviously we scored; they didn't.
Right.
And that is an
I mean, the
absolutely
yardage-
critical. Yes,
They
for
had
sure.
2 more yards than we did, but
Yeah.
they had 5 minutes more of possession.
Yep.
That's not complimentary football.
Well, it's not, and it's if they're going to lean back on the defense of but we scored, but you didn't have to, and those 2 of those touchdowns didn't have to happen, and this could be a 1-score game with 6 minutes to go, and they have the ball and they're driving, and you're in trouble.
And our
Because-
entire defense is having to protect a game that is very much in flux.
And now
I mean,
you're
if we
trying
didn't punch
to come
that ball
back.
loose, then it's a completely different game at that point.
Yeah.
Because it was
And like
tight.
Connor said, it's not like we're scoring early. We're scoring on third down, where if we miss that, if we don't catch it or we get stopped short, we're off the field and the defense is screwed.
Yeah, they're right back out there being
Yeah.
tired again.
Yeah, so I think that may be our first realist rant of the season, but it is spot on. Absolutely. We'll see if you got some others that are any good. Usually you come up with some pretty silly things.
They're usually
but-
flowing.
Do we want to make a prediction of how many realist rants will be this
Jeff
exact
Levy.
same topic? No, this exact same
Oh,
topic.
this exact same. Yeah.
Yeah, not just
God,
Jeff Levy,
I would
but
imagine probably half the season.
I'm scared. I'm scared that it might be.
Yeah.
And if it is, this is going to be a very depressing season.
It's showing a complete lack of awareness and a massive amount of stubbornness on Jeff Levy's
And
part.
it's the definition of insanity. Doing the same thing over and over and expecting different results.
Yeah.
We did it for an entire season, and now today we've done it again.
Yeah, I mean,
Well-
I think the difference from today's game from last year is that quote unquote competitive depth, because we
yeah,
do have
on the
enough
defensive side of
defensive
the ball.
players to sub in a lot more than we did last year, and it's not that big of a drop off.
And don't rely on that.
Yeah, but I mean, we were still getting tired even with that.
And we will. We'll not only get tired, they'll have success. They'll find seams. You just got part of winning football is, and I mean winning at a high level, when you win a lot of games, is putting teams away. And putting teams away when you have an opportunity to. When they're a lesser opponent, you put them away. And there's not any question in the third quarter that they're going to lose that game. And when you find yourself with an opportunity against a really good opponent, you put them away, and they are maybe 2 touchdowns down, and it's not like it's comfortable, but you're in a position where you're going to be playing at least one team in Texas that's going to be favored against you. If you happen to be up by 2 touchdowns late in that game, you've put them away and seized opportunities. If you don't do that, you're going to lose those games. And losing can beget more losing in that same scenario, because guys get down on each other. The defense starts to not believe in what the offense can do. They start to worry about what they need to do to put the team in a position to win, rather than just go out and do their job. So it concerns me for sure. I think that's a really big, legitimate concern. I didn't want us to be that negative, but we ended up being pretty negative about it.
You've got 3 games to figure it out before you go to Dallas.
And I'm serious. This might be our toughest opponent before Texas.
Before Texas, I think for sure.
Oh yeah,
I mean, Iowa State, Tulsa did not look good again today.
Cincinnati.
Don't
know what they are, but
and then after that, you've got Kansas on the road is going to be tough. I don't think Oklahoma State's going to be that tough. I don't think TCU is going to be that tough.
BYU doesn't. look to be that tough.
UCF, maybe. I don't know.
they squeaked a win out against Boise today.
BYU, legitimately, SMU might be one of your 3rd or 4th toughest opponents all year. That's not to say that it just is going to be easy and we don't have to worry, but I do think that we can take a little bit of a positive away from the fact that we did cover the spread, we in sort of a backdoor cover manner, and we did get the victory. So we shouldn't be too down on ourselves, but it is worrisome in a way that it wasn't. We didn't have any reason to worry last week with a 73-0 complete domination of what might turn out to be a much lesser opponent.
Yeah, it was a strong dose of reality today. I'm very happy with the win. I love seeing our defense step up when we need them to. Again, 11 points against anybody, especially at
Oh, absolutely.
It feels
a
so
team like
foreign.
that.
It's been
It's
so long for us.
crazy.
So
We won a game
yeah.
today that we lost last year, and we have lost multiple times in the past seasons with Riley, but we would have lost the game 42-41. We won the game today by 17 points, 28-11, and you don't have to look further than that to say we won it on defense. You held them to 11 points. We will not lose a football game if we hold everyone to 11 points.
Right.
And honestly, their 11 points was one of the worst. excuse me. Defensive performances of the season, not just on that drive with 2 15-yard penalties.
Right.
Really.
Brent Venables got a penalty. I mean, the whole, they moved
They had
40
3
yards
first
down the
downs
field.
on penalties.
Yeah.
Critical penalties, big penalties. And not to be too rosy about the penalties, but if you've got a guy like Ethan Downs making a tremendous tackle for a loss that happens to barely touch a face mask, and that's how they're getting bailed out, I don't feel nearly as bad about that as if you're grasping at someone who's already gained 15 yards, and you touch his face mask. And they were, it's 3rd and 20, and you give him the extra yards because of the face mask there.
I think we all probably feel in agreement here that Peyton Bowen is quickly moving his way up the depth chart.
Absolutely.
I think the
And that's
prediction
exciting.
that someone had in the preseason of Bowen being one of the starters going into the Cotton
Was that
Bowl.
you? I think that was you, actually.
I don't think I think I mentioned. I don't think I predicted that, but we were. I think we were all saying it very well could happen, and it's definitely progressing towards that.
And we may need that. Texas looked very strong today. They're going to be riding sky high. We're going to need to get a lot better if we're going to win the game in Dallas, for sure. And it can be done. I absolutely have a lot of faith in that, but my faith in and my confidence in Lebby is waning. It is, and my confidence in Gabriel is obviously waning. So something has to give there. Now, I'll make a prediction that we won't necessarily get to see this come to fruition or see a counterfactual, but I think if Arnold gets in there and has a lot more snaps, if he eventually becomes the starter, we may see some things out of Lebby in this offense that we're much happier about the situation than, and maybe we're, at least some of us are forgetting our complaints about Lebby because the success is so good. The combination of Lebby and Gabriel, I just am not real high on that, to think that we're going to end this season in a way that we can be real confident and have a lot of success. But maybe I'm wrong.
I completely agree. I mean, I don't want to give up completely on Lebby just yet, just because all we've seen so far is with Gabriel, and I wonder how much of a limiting factor that is.
It took the thought out of my head.
But to some extent, I mean, there are still play calls that he shouldn't be making when he's making them. What
was the run up the middle on 3rd and 8 or something?
Yes.
It was just
Yes,
like, what are we doing?
I think it's 3rd and 6 maybe,
just
but it's
just
still,
weak play calling.
Just, what are you seeing?
You just
in
ended.
making-
You're just giving up the drive.
Absolutely.
Just giving up.
Right.
And last week we did that, and it was a pet away underneath receiver screen, and he picks up 10 yards.
Right.
But today he's nowhere to be found, and
Way too
we
conservative.
didn't do anything like that today.
Which, Connor, you mentioned earlier, the defense is taking risks. And, if that's going to be, I wish that was our mentality for the entire team, and just except for the defense only. Because the defense does look good, putting in younger guys, putting in guys we know who could be stars. We have guys on offense that you would like to see at least get a chance, especially against SMU, which I know they may end up being a better opponent, but it's not like a conference, it's not like a big conference matchup where now would be maybe a good time to let those guys get some reps. But we're just not seeing it. We're seeing the same guys. We're seeing the same offense over and over, and it's just not working. At what point do they try to switch it up?
Now defense got PG Adebawari got in there today, and he looked like a monster for a
looked
couple
good.
plays.
Yeah. He
He
looked
did get
long.
a penalty on
He
him.
ripped
but-
a dude's helmet off.
But I mean, he was on the attack, and then again, Peyton Bowen everywhere, every time he's on the field, making plays.
So I've got a lot of confidence in Venables. I got a lot of confidence in where our defense is headed. I'll channel Lucas a little bit and say our complaints and worries about Gabriel, at some point, that has to come home to roost with your coach and your offensive coordinator, and especially the fact that he's been with Lebby a long time. And so, back when they were at UCF together, at some point, you're going to reflect your offensive coordinator's philosophy. And so if his shyness about taking risk, his inability to throw guys open and do what it takes in all of those situations where you want a quarterback to be aggressive, is that just a reflection on that's who your coach is and what your coach has been
But
telling
and at
you?
the same time, take it a level up. We're watching Nick Saban up here after his loss, but someone like Nick Saban as a head coach is not going to let Lebby or his offensive coordinator keep doing the same crap that's not
He
working.
doesn't stand for that crap.
So I don't know why Venables. I know he came out and said he wants to be completely immersed in the defense. That's fine. At some point, go be a head coach, sit Lebby down, and say something has to change in the way that we're operating for us to go to that next level that you want to go to.
Great point.
Because the offensive buck stops with Lebby. The buck with the team stops with Venables holistically.
Absolutely.
And he needs to be vocal in that meeting room with Lebby, if it's a one-on-one, whatever it is, and just let him know, look, we've got to do better. And I think you saw that. I think that's why we came out of last week with this optimism, because we did see I saw a completely different offensive team. Even you go back to the Florida State game, we saw a different offensive team in that game and how we were operating. We completely
Reverted.
contracted
Yeah.
today. Yeah, we digress or
Reverted.
reverted.
Reverted
Yeah,
back,
so,
yeah.
yeah. So I don't know. That is frustrating, and I want to see Venables take that stand, and I want to see it translate to the field.
And it has to translate against better opponents. We got Tulsa coming up. That's not probably a better opponent. So it'll be interesting to see if that's more of what we see when they feel more confident and can do more things, if that's more of an Arkansas State experience. And the real test will be probably Texas. And we won't know anything until then, and that's kind of scary. But next week we've got Tulsa up in T-Town. We'll have representation there. We will be cheering along with probably, what do you think, will be a majority OU crowd or
I
close?
mean, it holds 30. I would imagine it's 23,000 OU fans, if I had to guess.
That's a strong percentage,
Maybe
but I mean,
20, maybe 20 and 10.
Uh,
You don't think it's 2/3?
I don't think it'll be mostly OU fans. I don't know.
There's just not that many Tulsa fans.
Well, and I've got to think they're looking to sell their tickets and capitalize on letting
On us.
unless they want to see their team play the best opponent that they're going to play all year. I don't
Yeah.
know. So that's going to be interesting. That's going to be fun. Tulsa should be a fun game. Hopefully, boy, knock on wood. I don't want to go in there and have our first complete letdown. But other than that, anything else to talk about for tonight?
I'm
Tonight's
frustrated,
game?
but we're 2-0. So
Sooners are 2-0.
Got a good cigar?
Got a good cigar. Thanks
great
again to
weather.
Tobacco Exchange. The CAO rep really hooked us up this week. Really appreciate that. Got us a lighter. Got us a cutter. A really nice cutter. It's like the best. That's like something that you'd like, some medieval stuff there. That cutter. That'd cut a log. That's pretty impressive. But we're really happy with that. We're delighted with Tobacco Exchange and delighted that the Sooners are 2-0. Big victory tonight against SMU. Boomer.
Sooner.